This is a webinar on the modes and elements of astrology. It was presented live around the world on July 31st, 2013, and was sponsored by the School of the Holy Science. To support their operation, we ask that you donate at their website, schooloftheholyscience.org. Hello, I'm William Schreib, and this is a revision of our original first webinar on modes and elements. It was the first one, so it had limited format for graphics, and there were a few technical mistakes. So here we have corrected the errors and also added a ton of new graphics to better clarify the content in the original script. We hope you enjoy this work and pass it on to others. We begin this workshop with a quote we have on my website. It's by Carl Jung, psychiatrist and psychotherapist, who is a master interpreter of human personality. It is Carl who said, "We are born at a given moment, in a place. In like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and the season in which we are born. Astrology does not lay claim to anything more." This quote tells us a lot about our connection to the Earth's seasonal forces, the rhythms of nature, and the divine, intelligent process that makes life possible. Now, a certain set of these forces were occurring at our moment of birth, and science has recently discovered that this birth moment starts our biorhythmic clock from zero. That is where it starts. This birth point not only starts a person's daily circadian rhythm, it also sets the 6 other known biorhythmic patterns in the body. Therefore, it is clear that our time of birth affects the nature of our being and the makeup of our personality and physical appearance. These points in time, in our true connection with nature, are illustrated in the wonderful art and science of astrology. It becomes clear when you learn to understand the simple nature of astrology's modes and elements. This workshop will begin with a brief introduction to the elements. Nature's clock of creation is set into motion by the light and fire of the sun. This penetrating light ignites solids into flame and turns them into gas, while cooler temperatures bring solid forms and liquid states of being. These 4 states are illustrated in astrology's elements: fire, earth, air, and water. Now, when you're watching someone and you want to guess their sign, well, try this. Look at the energy, and if it's a high vibration, you're going to know it's air and fire signs. Take a look at those drawings of light and air, very high vibration. If they're more feminine energy, not as expansive, then you can consider that they may be an earth sign, the most solid, the least vibrational, because it's physical plane, and the water sign, which is liquid. So these are the elements. Now we will briefly look at how the 4 elemental states are activated and redesigned by the patterning actions of the 3 modes. When the fiery sun makes its yearly, monthly, and daily offerings of light, the alternating periods of brightness and darkness become the regulating cycles that season the elements on this earth. These repeating cycles of countering polarities establish the grand waveform designing process that makes all creation possible. The pattern of these actions are illustrated in the 3 astrological modes. Ancient astrologers observed the elements were being regularly altered by a cyclic pattern of 3 defined actions. They called them the modes. They work something like this. It's very simple. Take a look at this drawing, and you'll notice it's a circular event. It signifies the beginning of a circle, a cycle, or a quarter of a wavelength. Coming up to, from a baseline up to the, let's say, top would be a quarter. And these three actions happen. The cardinal point is like light. It's running in a direction. At some point, if you follow that circle counterclockwise, the next one in line you will see from the cardinal, you'll see the fixed point. This point defines the arc of the curve, the radius of the circle, the arc of that part of the wave. And of course, this definition of space and a point in space is the act of fixity. So therefore, anyone born in a fixed month would be fixed tendencies. And of course, the cycle is completed and made absolutely whole by the give and take adjustable movement that is the mutable sign. This is the final arrangement that takes the parts and completes the wave, or the part of the wave, or the part of the cycle. So this is how I see that the modes work. They are actions. Cardinal, fixed, and mutable modes are the primal operating process that makes all creation possible. And rather interesting, the quantum physicists have found this at all levels. They found it in the neutrinos, which used to be the smallest particle recognized, and they found that it shifted into three states of being. They call them flavors at that level, but I think what is happening, that little beam of light coming from that neutrino from the sun is actually bent a little bit, and that's what makes it a waveform. I hope that made sense. Okay, let's take a look at the modes in the solar cycle. For eons, the sun is generated its cyclic light show, changing the elements on this earth. And these three designing steps, as you see in this illustration, once again going counterclockwise, this cardinal points are the beginning of the season. It's a new direction, and you will note that we go from cardinal, fixed, mutable. These thousands of waves are changed by these repetitive actions of these modes. And also, if you look here, you will notice a switch in polarity, a switch to a different mode of action, and a transformation into another element. In the turning of the year, these four elements are altered by the three modes, and that is how we get define the energies represented in the 12 zodiac signs. Now that we have defined the modes and elements briefly, I would like to tell you how this project started and how I came to draw these caricatures. Back in the late 70s, I went to an astrology-believing Taurus friend to prove that astrology was a bovinian byproduct of overgrazing, if you know what I mean. I was not a believer. I took pictures of my Taurus dad, my Taurus friend, and any other victim I could find with my camera, and we laid the pictures out and we discussed what we saw. Well, amazingly, I saw some patterns, and my friend was very astute, and he showed me things I never saw before. So that's how it began. And as I tried to draw these caricatures over the years, I realized that I had to capture the essence of each one. Like with Taurus, I had to capture fixed Earth. I had to become Earth, and I had to become fixed. So, I would act these things out in front of a mirror. I would sit there, and I would become Taurus. And I got to realize Taurus is our senses, and the best thing that represents Taurus is smelling a rose. So what I did was I would smell a rose. With the study of celebrity sun sign photos and video clips, I created these facial features of Taurus. I saw how the fixed brow turns down in the middle, how the bovine eyes drop down in the lower outer edges, and how the nostrils widen. This is what happens when the physical senses are activated by Taurus transits. In time, I had Taurus pinned down. Fixed Earth's movements, mannerisms, gestures, and even body language. Later, I applied this idea to each mode and element combination, and then created the facial renderings for all of the signs. In this study, I also realized that since we were created by these seasonal forces, the 12 signs represented the life in all of us, as it regulates our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual makeup. All of these forces are there, even if some sign components are missing in your chart. The explanation of this process became the content of my second book, Dance of the Zodiac. Here we continue to look closer at the elements and how they represent the 4 states of being. In the process, you will notice I will inflect the tone of the element, be it earth, air, fire, or water. You will see the tone in the rhythm, and you'll see the pattern of cardinal, which is directed, fixed, and mutable. You'll see all this energy, mutable, fixed, cardinal, pulling, pushing, moving. And that will be what you see in the caricatures and the celebrity photos that follow. The 4 elements represent the polarity of events that occurs in the turning of any cycle. These states can have positive or negative charges. The positive charge lifts all wave strings up to their vibrational peaks. The negative charge manifests the subdued tones in the recessed valleys below. In this circle of 12 dimensions, the positively charged fire and air signs are given homes in the odd-numbered houses. In between, in the even houses, we find the negatively charged earth and water signs. The arrangement of fire, earth, air, and water is repeated 3 times to give us the 12 zodiac signs. We will now look at the positive signs of fire and air. The fire group is fire. Energy is its purest state. This is where we find the highest vibrational frequencies, as we mentioned earlier. Mannerisms of great intensity and combustibility and an abundance of heat. Fire also suggests the intangible essence of desire, will, the spiritual plane. The sparsest spirits burst into flame in the presence of the 3 fire signs. Aries, the one you see on the left, Leo in the center, and Sagittarius. We'll talk about the modes in a minute. Let's go to the air signs next. In air, the vibrations are still expansive and positively charged with less intense energy. The energy is dispersed into greater areas of occupation, shall we say, mental occupation. These dynamics suggest qualities of floating clouds, swirling breezes, and funnels of wind. The currents stir the restless minds of astrology's mental sides, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. The airy qualities resonate well with those of fire. And we go back, look at the positive houses once again, and we'll note how each elemental group creates its own triangular relationship. When the positive charge element is combined with another positive charge of, let's say, fire with air, they form energies that work well together. This forms the Star of David, which is the symbol you see of these 2 triangles in the chart. That is the creative actions that work together to make creation possible. Anyway, the vibrational fire needs air to burn, and the heat of fire allows air to expand its range of occupation. So that's how they complement each other. Now, in the negative houses, as we mentioned before, when the wave is descending and shifting to the minus side, we get feminine energies, reserved, internalized, inward. Here the vibrational quality is the down wave. It's desirous of consolidations. It's what we see in earth and water, of course. Earth represents the physical plane and matter itself. You'll notice when Earth people talk, they have a very solid quality about them. The earthy substance arouses the senses of the earth signs and inspires them to build new configurations and create more efficient and practical products. These are the three earth signs: Taurus, fixed; Virgo is mutable; and Capricorn is the cardinal sign at the winter solstice. Next up, we have the water signs. Watch the energy. If it floats around a little bit, it's a little more liquid, and it's not as solid as Earth. It's probably water. The resonating rhythms of water suggest the movement of tides, the settling of water into contained pools, and the osmosis of the universal solvent. This element will appear to permeate, coat, and then meld with everything that it touches. These magical feelings can be seen in the signs on the left: Cancer, Scorpio, fixed, and Pisces is the mutable water. If we look back, once again, another thought here on the water signs. The earthy substance gives water containment and form. Water loosens earth and brings it to life. Water is the universal solvent that melds all the elements into one. Now we're going to learn how to detect the elements and personalities, and we have some actual personalities to look at here when you want to configure someone's sun sign, let's say. Okay, as we mentioned, deep resonant voices are Earth. Now they'll talk with a slow cadence, with a very solid earthy voice. Tauruses are the slowest talkers. Virgos are the mental earth signs, and they love to work with details and physical arrangements. Capricorns seem to build structure from the bottom up, a mountain of institutions that will take us higher up on the physical plane. Over on the left, you see Cher and George Clooney, two Tauruses, and think of their voices. Cher's rich voice, George Clooney, pretty solid and earthy. Look at those bovine eyes. Other Tauruses I could think of: Orson Welles, how deep his voice was. Jimmy Stewart, he had trouble finding words. Kate Hepburn, much like a Virgo. Lauren Bacall, they have a rich, earthy voice. Speaking of Virgo Lauren Bacall, take a look at her picture and that of Sean Connery. Their features are not cubical like Taurus, but noticeably skewed because they are the mutable earth sign. The fingers of these highly mercurial creatures move like Mercury as they arrange their world into precise and orderly arrangements. As we see in Lily Tomlin, Jane Curtin, and Jeff Foxworthy, some of these souls can be overly fussy and critical. The Capricorns here, we have Joan Baez, another earthy voice. The most earthy of the bunch is James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader. Now, he happens to be a triple Capricorn: sun sign, rising sign, and moon. So he's really earthy. Other Capricorns I can think of: Judd Law, Kevin Costner, and just think of the earthy drive that they have to move forward in their careers. Okay, let's look at some water signs. With water signs, mannerisms are very rhythmic. They flow smoothly in subtle waves. Cancers tend to swell and then recede like the tide. Think of Cancer swelling up at you, pulling back, swelling, pulling back. That's the Cancer rhythm. Here we have Lena Horne and Will Ferrell. Other Cancers are Robin Williams, Ringo Starr, Kathy Bates, and Meryl Streep. Scorpios seem to be submerged in heavy water. They have a very intense, fixed quality to them. Look at the laser eyes. We have Whoopi Goldberg, Leo DiCaprio. Other Scorpios are Hillary Clinton, Condi Rice, and Dennis Miller. Charlie Manson definitely had the intensity. Pisces have that kind of a mutable look, like a dreamy, shifting energy. Pisces are Drew Barrymore and George Harrison, as you see here. Others in this realm of dreams, Einstein, Liza Minnelli, Steve Irwin, and Jennifer Love Hewitt. So these are the water signs. Let's take a look at the samples of the fire signs now. Aries on the left. Think of that forceful head-first energy of those Aries. Intense, sharp, angular actions. Leo is fixed. The generators of heat. The mutability of fire going all directions is Sagittarius. The Aries you see here are Mary Lou Henner and Alex Baldwin. Others I can think of that are quite forceful and headstrong are William Shatner, Eddie Murphy, Reba McEntire, Sarah Jessica Parker. The Leos you see here are Kathy Gifford, Mick Jagger, such show people, so fixed fire, you'll see it. Others, Jackie Onassis Kennedy, Halle Berry, Antonia Banderas. See him strut into the room, holding up energy, fixed fire. Sagittarius, there you see on the right, is Jon Stewart and Tyra Banks. Bette Midler, Ben Stiller, Dick Van Dyke are all centaurs. So you'll see that fiery mixed energy in people like that. Okay, we're going to go to the air sign and see how they move with the force of expression. And the air signs, of course, are mercuric, mental energy, animated, flighty, vacuous occupiers of large space, and they have breathy and high-pitched voices. Well, let's look at the Gemini. Marilyn Monroe, visualize her breathy voice. Dana Carvey, the church lady, has a very high-pitched voice, and he has Virgo rising to add to his Gemini. Other Geminis include Bobby Dylan, Joan Rivers, Annette Bening, and Anderson Cooper. So you could imagine the breathy, airy presence of these air signs. The Libras are a lot calmer than the other two because this is cardinal energy going sideways. Aries, the opposite sign in the zodiac, was right at you. Libra is balanced sideways.
Libra sun signs Barbara Walters and Jimmy Carter clearly show this horizontal spread. Other good examples are Matt Damon, Kelly Ripa, Gwyneth Paltrow, Will Smith, and Mickey Mantle. This cardinal direction of Libra is placed on hold when the lights are turned on in the fixed air of Aquarius. Ellen DeGeneres and Justin Timberlake both have that high-pitched and breathy voice. Timberlake is very good at hitting those high notes. Ellen, she's there too. Other Aquarius sun signs include Alan Alda, John Travolta, Carol Channing, Jennifer Aniston, Farrah Fawcett, and Ted Koppel.
And, of course, my favorite. Now think of the movie, Spielberg's movie, Abe Lincoln. Now, we saw all the trailers and everything, and here was Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abe Lincoln. And here he was talking about this voice. He had that high-pitched air voice. And they said that is the way he sounded. And everybody said Lincoln had a high voice like that. And true to history, they integrated into the film. So I found that a fascinating bit of history.
Now we will return to the three modes and show how they shape the four elements, as well as the personalities of celebrities. We will begin with the cardinal signs.
At the solstice and the equinox, astrologers saw in the sky, in back of the morning sunrise, were these four constellations.
The illustration shows the Earth's North Pole at the bottom. This reflects the counterclockwise movement of the sun, moon, and planets, and how they move in an astrology chart.
At these seasonal starting points, the sun was in Aries for spring, Cancer was the peak for summer, Libra was fall, and Capricorn was the winter solstice. At these points, the sun appears to move in a new direction. It's at its eastern point with the spring. At summer, it's at the northernmost, and it turns the direction heading back south. In the fall, it's in the west. In the winter, it's heading back to the east. You see the directional change at these cardinal points in the sky. Let's take a look at the cardinal signs and some of the caricatures. When the sun transits one of these cardinal points, expect some kind of movement and a noticeable redirection of creative energies. These are the caricatures I have of Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn, and they're all labeled so you know which one's which. The directions are all different with each sign. And you will recognize these cardinal energies in people's expressions and mannerisms. The quality of the color of these cardinal forces are also determined by the nature of each season. The fiery red light of Aries moves us into spring. Libra's night lights move us into the pastel orange of fall. Summer takes us into the cooling blue shade of Cancer. We want to go into the water to get into the shade, to get out of the hot summer sun. And the gray of Capricorn's winter drives us to our New Year's resolutions to push ahead into the future. Okay, now let's take a look at some cardinal celebrities. If you notice an expansive outward push running in a vertical or horizontal direction, then you're observing one of the masculine cardinal signs. If the person is constantly in your face, it's likely you encountered an Aries. Hugh Hefner, Mary Lou Henner, and Eddie Murphy demonstrate how the Aries ram charges headfirst from front to back, clearing everything from the path of movement. This gives Aries that high arched eyebrows and the long vertically stretched faces I mentioned earlier. Now Libras, the bottom ones in this illustration, are the opposite side of Aries, so instead of vertical movement, we disarm the forward drive by sweeping energy off to the sides, balancing in a horizontal direction. Air is dissipating the energy into a larger arena as it shifts the energy back and forth from one side to the other. The horizontal spread of energy spreads the features of Libra to the sides. You have the widespread eyes that dart from one side to the other. The most noticeable trait is the V-shaped smile, that cherubic smile that stretches the cheeks wide to the sides. These are observed in the mannerisms of these photos here. You see of Jimmy Carter, Christopher Reeve, and Gwyneth Paltrow. So if you see this back and forth energy, then you will know that it's good chance you're looking at a Libra. We're going to go on now to the feminine cardinal signs. In the feminine signs of Cancer and Capricorn, the watery, earthy forces are directed from within. This is an internalized energy. It's pulling things inward, downward, and pushing it upward from within. If you notice a pulling force drawing your attention, you can likely be sucked into the energy field of one of these feminine cardinal signs, Cancer or Capricorn. If you see the depth of the ocean in their eyes and the beaming lunar face, and they offer you a bowl of yummy soup, you're being mothered by a Cancer crab. Meryl Streep, Ross Perot, Keith Marin display the surging tides of Cancer. Well, I had trouble with identifying Cancers. This is a hard thing to realize. There is movement here, but they're always stuck at home. They don't move from their base. They are pulling stuff down into their base. That is the movement that Cancers create. Now, Capricorn is the opposite. They're pushing up from the base, from within, to create a mountain of physical material to support and make a better world. Now, with Cancers, there's a lot of emotions to this. If it's void of emotion and they're very, very persistent, you're likely being accosted by a goat. Tenaciously, these creatures will continue to pull your strings, if you know what I mean, that upward push. You can see it in the faces here of Betty White, Denzel Washington, and David Bowie. With every new month, there's a shift in mode and polarity, as we mentioned. Because of this polarity shift, each new sign counters the actions of the previous sign. So this creates a process, because everything that is countered by the next sign. Thusly, the middle month of every season, cardinal's momentum is countered by a need to stop the movement and put everything on hold in a fixed mode. It's time to make something of worth, and this is what we do with the fixed signs. Take a look at these illustrations of the 4 fixed signs. Caught in the middle, that's where they are. It's the middle month of the season. The energies are fixed around the common center to define the encircled space of what is contained in this circle. This definition of center is the manifesting force of being that forms all creation. Perhaps the Higgs boson God particle is a fixed energy. It makes something appear out of nothing. This containment creates square and cubical physical features. And if you look at these caricatures here, Taurus, very square features. Leo, proud fixed cubical energy. Scorpio's a little more rounded because we have the rounded flesh of water. Aquarius is light, vacuous energy with very cubic foreheads and jaws. With the feminine sides of Taurus and Scorpio, it's easy to see the fixity because it's held internally, and they really hold their space. But with the masculine signs, Leo and Aquarius, the expansive forces are reaching out to connect with external connection and external realities. They are reaching out to connect instead of in like the feminine signs. Most of America's earlier news teams were made up of fixed sign people. We like our anchors to be emotionally unflappable. These are the ones that we see in our fixed photo collection here. Let's take a look at the feminine fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio. It's amazing how many news anchors are fixed signs. If they appear stubborn and resistant to movement, then you're grazing with a contented cow or bull. The bovine eyes are a giveaway. Brian Williams, Mike Wallace, and Edward R. Murrow are legendary heavyweight anchors. Now, if you feel the presence of submerged emotions, you're drawn in the secret world of a Scorpio. These are the emotionally unflappable anchors. Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, Jane Pauley, all Scorpios, incredible emotional control. And think about them in the most trying of events, the assassinations and etc. that went on through the years. Let's take a look at the fixed masculine signs, Leo and Aquarius. Here, the expansive energies are attached to external conditions and reality, as we said, versus internal. The fixed fire of Leo radiates in a large sense of self. The sun is here, in the chest, in the heart, as the lion attempts to attract the attention of others. And you'll see that. And then you've got a clue that you're probably watching a Leo. In Aquarius, there's a fixing on thoughts, the collective thoughts of others. Intuitive insights is what they want to pick up on and to enlarge their own mental perceptions. If someone gives you a compliment and they take on a fixed radiant glow, then you're likely in the presence of a Leo. This aura of confidence was noticeable in the presentations of Peter Jennings, Linda Ellerby, Connie Chung, Leos, all. But if you give an Aquarius a compliment, it likely went unnoticed. Give them an idea, their eyes will light up and sparkle with electricity, and they'll make surprising connections to your original thought. So that's Aquarius fixing onto ideas. Tom Brokaw, Ted Koppel, and Jessica Savage show us this gift. Okay, we go back and let's take a look at the last month in each season. Is a time of internal and external adjustments, and there's a new mode of operation to prepare us for the movement into a new season. It's time to change polarity. We need to do the opposite of what we were doing. We were holding. We need to unfix, stir up, and loosen it up. Caught between the stop and the go, we have the fixed in the cardinal. The energies run back and forth in a Mobius pattern. you will see this Mobius pattern in the hand movements and in the twisted and skewed features of the mutable signs.
Let's look at the caricatures and photos of the mutable signs. There you see the twisting and skewing forces, and they're seen in the features of Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. This mutable energy examines all of the angles from all sides. They tell us how to distinguish the differences in the things, ideas, desires, and emotions that surround us. This mixing of components makes new creations possible. So far we have detected the strong inward and outward directed force of the cardinal signs. And there was the holding pattern of the fixed signs. That was, to most of us, the easiest to detect. Now, if you don't sense either of these, and you have a feeling of an undefinable energy that keeps changing, then you are likely in the presence of a mutable sign.
Let's take a look at the masculine mutable signs. If you see scattered electrical sparks and you're hearing a didactic flow of chatter and the hands flying all over the place, well, then you're likely having a lively conversation with a Gemini. Nicole Kidman, Clint Eastwood, and Angelina Jolie are all masters of such verbal spin. If you're interrupted in the middle of every sentence and the subject matter constantly takes quantum leaps in every direction, then you've caught the momentary attention of a galloping centaur. Their centaurs are Christina Aguilera, Sammy Davis Jr., and Dick Van Dyke. Last and not least is the feminine mutable signs. Unlike the expansive whirl of fire in air, the mutable forces of the feminine signs, Virgo and Pisces, seem to spin us inward. They pull us into the vortex of Alice's rabbit hole. Here the changes are rearranged internally to alter the nature of the whole. That's WHOLE. If a person is noticeably critical of their imperfect surroundings, and they steadily offer their services to make it better, then you're likely in the presence of a Virgo. Cameron Diaz, Richard Gere,
Lily Tomlin
is a perfect Virgo, just slightly too critical. But watch her fingers move about and point and count like all Virgos do. Let's take a look at Pisces.
With Pisces, the Mercuric mind of Virgo is dissolved in the universal solvent. This lack of physical attachment frees the soul to imagine fantasies once believed impossible. For the Pisces fish, the dream is real. Bon Jovi rides his own wave of musical currents. Joanne Woodward shows the compassion of this sign. And it was Albert Einstein who magically imagined the universal connection between everything. With Pisces and the other mutable signs, every season and cycle finds its resolution. With a sense of completion, it is time to start again, to pursue any adventure we can imagine. This pursuit in a new direction takes us back to the cardinal signs, who move us forward on our path of destiny. In the middle of each season or cycle, the journey stops to secure the resources we need for our purpose. The resulting formation is then altered by another cycle of mixing forces. This process has happened for eons, and it continues now. As you identify with these astro components, you may come to understand how the signs represent the life in all of us, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual makeup. all 12 signs are operating, but some of them are emphasized by the planetary arrangements reflected in your horoscope. These, of course, are the God-given talents that you were given at birth. I hope that this presentation has helped you to understand the forces that surround you, and it will assist you as you run in sync with nature's rhythms. The original webinar concluded with a question and answer session with excellent questions from our viewers. You can find the link on our website. At this conclusion, I'd like to give a tip of the hat to Dan Emmerich, who directed and engineered the first live webinar.